Resident Evil 2's Nemesis DLC is like Xenoblade 2's Torn of the Golden Country, where both expansions are good enough on their own to be sold as separate games. Except, unlike Torna, this DLC is just as expensive as the base game. This DLC is short, even by Resident Evil standards. My first blind playthrough only took me around 4.5 hours, which is criminal when you realize that not only does the RE2 campaign last longer, but there are 4 different routes, as well as bonus game modes after you beat the game. In comparison, once you beat the DLC, that's it. No mercenaries, no extra scenarios, nothing. In terms of value per dollar, you're better off buying any other modern Resident Evil product. And that sucks, because I actually find the core gameplay of this DLC to be improved upon base RE2. While the wonky controls of Resident Evil 2 are great at making enemies scary, it can sometimes be frustrating when your only option for dealing with zombies in close quarters is to power walk away from them. Which is why I generally prefer my Resident Evils with more action and flexibility. So the dodge mechanic is a welcome addition that generally makes combat feel better, and is the main reason why I found the boss fights in this DLC to be more fun than base RE2's. I also prefer the bonus shop system to unlocking extras through criteria, because it offers more incentive in getting achievements, and allows you to get OP stuff early. I feel like if these systems were added to base RE2, they would make that game much better than an RE is. But the unfortunate reality is that they're stuck in a poorly structured DLC. If Resident Evil 2 is structured like a series of dense mazes, then RE2 DLC is built like 2 McDonald's playpens with large linear segments sandwiched in the middle. The only part of this DLC with any semblance of the backtracking and puzzle solving that Resident Evil is known for is beginning with downtown Raccoon City and the end with the hospital. The rest of this DLC is a simple, straight line, with each segment over way too soon. Feels like there's a ton of cut content here, and developers really miss an opportunity to expand on what made RE2 so great. Nemesis is way less intimidating compared to the absolute fear that Mr. X instills. He's only really prevalent in scripted segments, gets crippled by a single grenade on standard difficulty, and ends up as more of an annoyance than a threatening presence in the few instances he chases you. The split between Jill and Carlos is poorly balanced. You constantly have to pick and choose what to keep or drop in Jill's limited inventory space, but Carlos just has magic pockets that always have enough room for whatever random shit he picks up. Like, in the last playable Carlos segment of the DLC, where you're fighting off hordes of zombies, there's a hip pouch you can pick up that's completely unnecessary at this point. And you might be thinking, maybe the game will let me leave it there for Jill to pick up later. No, Jill can't pick up later, because stupid-ass Carlos with his infinite cargo pants needs more inventory space in the last 5 minutes of playtime with him instead of the main fucking character. Speaking of Jill and Carlos, let's talk about the story. It's bad, even by Resident Evil standards. This series has always exuded campy, B-movie horror vibes, but there is still effort put into character development to make emotional moments have an impact. Jill and Carlos are fucking strangers. They have like 2 conversations and suddenly they're best friends, which is honestly more development than any other character gets. Random general guy says 2 lines and then sacrifices himself in his next appearance as if we're supposed to care that this leprechaun died. Generic boomer villain man is generic and completely void of any personality or charisma that better bad guys like Heisenberg and Lady Dimitrescu have. It is admittedly neat to get some context on some of the side characters from base RE2, but other than knowing how Marvin got Ligma, the story is entirely worthless. Overall, the Resident Evil 2 DLC is like this video, rushed and incomplete. Although it has some good gameplay changes that make the combat more tolerable, and completion more enticing, the lack of content makes the package as a whole not worth your time or money unless you've already experienced RE2 or can find this DLC for under $20. Hopefully in the future, Capcom can learn from their mistakes, and give the eventual Resident Evil 3 remake the time it deserves. What do you mean that was the 3rd game?